Whew. Whew, boy. Whew. Whew. Out of all the movies that I own, out of all the animes that I own, out of all the projects that I have in my room, I watched this movie and I'm still, just bear with me because it's like these are one of these movies that I've caught because my wife wanted to watch this with me. She knows that this movie was gonna fuck me up, and she's right, it did. I've Let's get to the headline, please, because this movie, we need to talk about this movie. Misery is a 1990. Wow, this movie came out the same year I was born, too. I feel like Mark Ruffalo when he said that I was built for this. This movie was made in 1990. It's an American psychological horror film written. It's been directed by Rob Reiner and based on a Stephen King's novel. After a serious car crash, novelist Paul Sheldon is rescued by a former nurse named Annie Wilkes, who claims to be his biggest fan. Annie soon brings him to the remote cabin to recover from his injuries from the accident. However, Sheldon soon realizes that he is no longer a man who will leave and go back to the public, but his fan sees an opportunity to show him how of a deadly devoted fan she really is. Soon finding this out, Sheldon notices Annie's mind and grows increasingly controlling, even violent, as she forces the author to shape his writing to suit her twisted fantasy.
I want her, Smith! I want her! And you murdered her!
This movie is crazy. This movie is twisted. This movie is fucked up. I know of Stephen King's projects. One of my favorite movies that he ever made of all time is Pet Sematary. I love Pet Sematary. And actually, that's one of the only films that he's made that even the remake was successful. Now, people would debatably say that it was good. And the remake was good too. But I feel like when it comes to something that is unoriginal, something that really stands off when it comes to the cliche bits of horror, because there's so many horror movies based on clowns. Let's just be 100. I'm not bashing on it at all. I'm just saying that there's a lot of horror films that has been there and done that because of this whole method of it. So it kind of ruins the creativity. I just love Pet Sematary because it kind of takes the whole factor of a zombified creation being brung back because you miss a loved one so much. And they will not come back the same at all. That movie gave me nightmares as a kid, to the point where I wanted to avoid Stephen King's projects. But as an adult, I've gotten older to the point where I wanted to embrace my fear and watch more of his projects. I watched a lot of Stephen King's movies. I have. But for some reason, I stayed away from Misery. For some reason, that movie, it's like, watch all this, but not that. I don't know. I did not know. Even in my traumatic phases, as I've gotten older, with a female that has kind of done the exact same thing to me. If people have watched my channel for a long while or just know me personally, y'all know what I'm about to say. And the crazy thing is, I know nothing about this movie. It's just something in my gut just told me to not watch this. And my wife has already seen it. She's already seen it, and she knew about my trauma. And when she wanted me to watch Misery with her, she wanted me to embrace it. She was like telling me, look, I've known about your ex, because what you told me, and I know she tried to kill you, and you kind of like lay low on your, you making books for a while, and I did not know that Misery was like this. I did not know that Misery was anything like this at all. So she was bracing me to, like, because she was like, I want you to see this so I can hear your opinion about it. And I watched it, and the movie picks up at a very fair pace, but at the pace where things already happen in a traumatic way. As Paul Sheldon, that is played by James Cain, he has the same name as me, James. I cannot make this shit up. Cannot make this shit up. Anyway, he is already on this. He's already on his way to get his manuscript looked at and get published. But at the same time, he's in the middle of a snowstorm. And when this happens, he gets into a very bad accident that literally caused him to literally pass out, and he's literally on the verge of death. This is literally the beginning of the movie. And as I was watching this, I thought this was gonna be like about monsters or just conjuring up demons. This is Stephen King we're talking about here. So I was thinking to myself, normally the build up of this would happen in midterm for us to get to know these characters. But we begin to know more about Paul Sheldon's character as the story continues. But that's how the movie starts. The movie starts where he literally just gets into this accident on his way to get his novel looked at, and then this mysterious woman, thankfully, finds him, gets him out of his wreckage, and she takes care of him out of her own beneficial needs to just make sure that he's okay, but in a dark, more twisted reason. Kathy Bates, that play as Annie Wilkes, when Paul Sheldon was rescued by her, as soon as I seen her, I knew something wasn't right. I knew something wasn't right. She is known for playing the twisted, crazy woman. And even though she was acting nice to him, saying that, hey, listen, like, I'll rescue you, everything's gonna be okay, I was like, oh God, this is not gonna be good. This is not gonna be good at all. She was nominated. She was known for her acting ability on this movie to the point where her role was irreplaceable. There are movies that have been remade. I think that Misery will never be remade because they can't find a woman like Kathy Bates. And that's fair. That is literally fair. And her presence alone, she has like one of these charisma attributes where when you see her, no matter how nice she is, you think that she's up to something. But all hell breaks loose when he finds out that she is his biggest fan. And I thought that was a good thing to know, because it's like, you know what, all right, you know this guy that you're taking care of. So you know this man is important. But when it comes to people liking your projects, liking you for who you are, they like you in fatistic ways to see how they can shape you in a way where you're perfect. And that's what Annie's character was. She loves his art of critical thinking of his books to the point where she was living that fantasy. And she didn't want him to change anything up. So when she read his manuscript, she went ballistic when she found out that something about this book was not right. And that's when he saw like the dark tone of her character, her bipolarism. The darkness that wielded inside her really just lashed out. And she tried to calm it down, but that was enough for him and for us to be like, you know what, damn, this bitch should not be trusted. As this whole thing unfolds, this is what makes this whole project strong. People who watch this movie that can't relate to isolation like this, it fucked them up too. I can relate to this. I have dated a woman in my early 20s. And we didn't meet this way. We didn't have an accident. But she seemed nice and everything like that, but she was very overprotective. She was extremely overprotective to the point where I couldn't go anywhere without her consent. And then when I want her to go with me, she didn't want me to go. She was very, very like judgmental when it came to people that I hung out with. And to cut the whole story in half, I ended up leaving her because of this. Because it wasn't a healthy relationship. So that's when the stalking continued. And but by the time I tried to confront her about her like following me home and just like stalking my house 24/7, she offered me to come with her to dinner. And when I was eating lunch with her, I passed out. She drugged the food and she tried to kill me in the process. I just need to let everybody know how much this film has really awakened my trauma. This happened a long time ago. She did 7 years in prison because of this. And when it comes to a film like this, I can understand Stephen King's definition of mixtures of horror. He made so many movies based on different iconic ideas of horror when it comes to psychology, when it comes to undead, when it comes to upscale prediction of child in human behavior, which is it. He wanted to make Misery to focus on the critique state of horror being you having no advantages, you having your will of defense completely cut off. And it was done perfectly. It was done well. And with Kathy Bates' character, when Paul Sheldon was getting to figure things out, especially when he found out about her past, when he was trying to sneak out of his room, it really broke me down. It made me feel as if, damn, this woman is smart. This woman is witty. But at the same time, this woman had a fucked up history. So the odds are stacked against him tremendously. He was a fractured man that could barely defend himself. And Kathy Bates is a big woman. There was times when he would try to fight her, especially when law enforcement was showing up and she had to knock him out. And I really felt bad for him because he couldn't do anything, especially that part, man, where she put a lot of pieces together and she found out that he was snooping out. And I don't want to bring that scene up, but everybody know what I'm talking about. Let's talk about the ending. It ended the way I wanted to end, but not that realistically. And the reason I'm saying that is because movies like this would commonly end this way, but like they would just end with a happy ending and that's it. But it ended with that, but in a way where Paul Sheldon had a traumatic mental breakdown. Each time somebody asks him for an autograph, each time somebody tells him I'm your biggest fan, and it carried that weight with him. That's another thing I can relate to. I've stopped publishing books for a long while because of this, because I've had to limitate myself from the public because of how crazy people are. And after watching this movie, it really relived my whole mental state all over again, to the point where I've watched Misery 2 weeks ago. I'm barely functioning right now just to review this. Overall, this movie, I have nothing bad to say about it. Maybe because of how much this movie has triggered my PTSD, I failed to overlook the flaws, but please bear with me. And I can understand that people will say, well, this was wrong, that was wrong, and please let me know if there's anything I missed. I'm a critic at the end of the day. So I can take criticism if I miss anything that was important, that was a flaw. But I have nothing bad to say about Misery. I have nothing bad to say about it at all. It took my wife a long while to help me shake this off, and she apologized. She told me, look, I'm so sorry, and I forgave her. She thought that I've gotten over this, even though this happened a long time ago. And I feel like, and there were some people that was still around, that is still around, that knew that the Jeffrey Dahmer series was out, and they was around when that whole thing was going on. And I know how that feels. I know how that feels when a project that can relate to a traumatic experience that you have witnessed will trigger your mindset to relive that nightmare. And by me watching Misery, it's not I'm not saying I was based on that moment, but it's like I can understand the isolation. I can understand where your lover has the upper hand, and at the same time you're vulnerable. You can't do anything about it, and you're being on the verge of death. And yeah, I don't want to speak too much about it, but all I'm going to say is this, is that this movie is something that you guys should miss out on. Horror is subjective. It's like, what does scare you? But I feel like this movie is not scary. It's traumatizing to let you be aware of how crazy people would do for the sake of love. I'm going to have to give Misery a legendary rating of A+.